The lipstick on the coffee mug wasn't Mara's shade. I'd been married to my wife for 8 years, and I knew her obsession with that particular burgundy color she wore religiously. This was bright red, almost slutty red, if I'm being honest. The mug sat in her car's cup holder like a neon sign screaming, "Your marriage is over, you pathetic fool." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Eli Barrett, and I'm a real estate photographer. Not exactly the most glamorous job in the world, but it pays the bills and gives me flexible hours. Mara always introduced me as my husband who takes pictures of houses, with that condescending smile that made my teeth ache. She was the hotshot realtor, the one bringing in 6 figures while I documented empty rooms and staged living spaces for her listings. I should have seen the signs earlier. The late-night client meetings, the sudden interest in going to the gym at 7 in the morning, the way she'd clutch her phone like it contained state secrets and take calls in the bathroom with the water running. But it was Damon who really opened my eyes. Damon's been my best friend since college, and he bartends at Murphy's Tavern downtown. 3 nights ago, he called me with that uncomfortable tone people use when they're about to ruin your life. "Eli, man, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but I saw Mara at the bar last night. She wasn't alone." My stomach dropped. Business meeting? Unless business meetings involve tongue wrestling these days. She was all over some guy, tall, cocky-looking bastard in an expensive suit. They were practically eating each other's faces. I thanked Damon and hung up, staring at the ceiling of our bedroom while Mara slept beside me. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text message lit up the screen. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. M." Not exactly a smoking gun, but combined with everything else, the picture was becoming crystal clear. The next morning, I decided to do some investigating. I'm a photographer after all. I know how to be invisible, how to observe without being seen. I followed Mara to what she claimed was a property showing on the other side of town. She met him at a coffee shop first, Matt Hendricks, her colleague from Pinnacle Realty. I recognized him from office parties, the guy who always managed to make every conversation about his sales numbers and his new Range Rover. He was exactly the type of arrogant prick Mara would find attractive. I watched them through my telephoto lens as they sat in a corner booth, holding hands across the table like teenagers. Mara threw her head back and laughed at something he said, touching his arm in that flirty way she used to touch mine. Then she handed him something, a key. He pocketed it with a grin that made me want to punch his perfectly whitened teeth. They left separately, but I followed Matt to a small apartment complex on Elm Street, Unit 47B, their little love nest. I drove home in a daze, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. 8 years of marriage, and this is what it came to. My wife screwing her colleague in some cheap apartment while I was home editing photos of houses I'd never be able to afford. That evening, Mara came home with Chinese takeout and that fake cheerful smile she'd been wearing for months. "How was your day, honey?" she asked, setting containers on the kitchen table. "Enlightening," I said. "How was your property showing?" She didn't miss a beat. "Great. The clients loved the house. I think we'll have an offer by tomorrow." "Which property was it again?" "The Colonial on Maple Street. You remember? The one with the weird layout?" I nodded, even though I knew she'd been nowhere near Maple Street. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so proud of how hard you work." She beamed at me, probably thinking her lies were working perfectly. If she only knew I had photos of her and Matt going into that apartment, time-stamped and geotagged. After dinner, Mara announced she needed to help her father Frank with some tax paperwork. "Poor Dad is so confused by all those forms," she said, grabbing her purse. "I might be late." "No problem," I said. "Give Frank my best." The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I called Frank. "Hey, Eli. Good to hear from you. How are things?" "I'm great, Frank. Hey, do you want to come over for dinner tomorrow night? Mara mentioned she's been helping you with tax stuff, and I thought we could all go over it together. I'm pretty good with numbers. There was a pause. Tax stuff? Son, I finished my taxes 3 months ago. Had my accountant do them, same as always. Bingo. Oh, maybe I misunderstood. Well, come over anyway. I'll make my famous lasagna. Sounds great. 7 o'clock work for you? Perfect. I hung up and smiled for the first time in weeks. Tomorrow night was going to be very interesting. I spent the entire next day preparing. Not just the lasagna, though I did make a damn good one, but my strategy. I'm not a confrontational person by nature, but 8 years of marriage had taught me exactly which buttons to push to get under Mara's skin. Frank arrived at 6:30, carrying a bottle of wine and wearing his usual good-natured smile. He's a decent guy, Frank. Retired electrician, straight shooter, raised Mara to be independent and strong. Unfortunately, he also raised her to think she could get away with anything. Smells great in here, Frank said, settling into his favorite chair at our kitchen table. Where's my daughter? She should be home any minute. She's been working so hard lately. We made small talk about his garden and my latest photography projects, until we heard Mara's key in the lock at 7:15. She walked into the kitchen and froze when she saw her father. Dad, what are you doing here? Eli invited me for dinner. Something about helping with tax forms. Frank looked genuinely puzzled. Though I told him I finished those months ago. Mara's face went through several interesting color changes. She looked at me, then at Frank, then back at me. I could practically see the gears turning as she tried to come up with an explanation. Oh, those weren't your taxes, Dad. They were, some investment paperwork you asked me to look at. Investment paperwork? Frank raised an eyebrow. Honey, you know I keep all my investments simple. Just my pension and that CD at First National. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Mara shifted her weight from foot to foot, clutching her purse like a shield. So, where were you tonight, sweetheart? I asked casually, serving the lasagna. How did the paperwork go? Fine. It went fine. Her voice was getting higher, the way it always did when she was caught in a lie. Dad, maybe you forgot about asking me to look at those documents. Frank's expression was hardening. He might be 65, but he wasn't senile, and he didn't appreciate being treated like he was. Mara, I think I'd remember asking you to help with investments I don't have. I decided it was time to twist the knife. You know, honey, it's funny. I drove past Elm Street today, and I could have sworn I saw your car parked outside those new apartments. The ones near the coffee shop where you and Matt like to meet. The color drained from her face completely. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because I have some interesting photos on my camera. Professional quality, great resolution. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the pictures I'd taken. This one's my favorite. You can really see the emotion in your faces. I showed her the screen. It was a shot of her and Matt kissing in the parking lot of the apartment complex, her hands tangled in his hair, his grabbing her ass like they were horny teenagers. Frank leaned over to look, and his face went dark red. Jesus Christ, Mara. Dad, I can explain. Explain what? Frank's voice was quiet. Explain how you're cheating on your husband? Explain how you've been lying to both of us? Mara started crying, but they were angry tears, not remorseful ones. You don't understand. Eli and I haven't been happy for years. We're like roommates, not husband and wife. So, you decided to fix that by screwing Matt Hendricks in some cheap apartment? I kept my voice level, almost conversational. How long has this been going on? It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. The question is, how long? She wiped her nose with the back of her hand, smearing her makeup. 6 months. Frank stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. I'm ashamed of you, Mara. Your mother would be heartbroken. Don't bring Mom into this. Your mother raised you better than this. She taught you about commitment, about honesty, about treating people with respect. Frank's voice was shaking with anger. And this is how you honor her memory? That hit home. Mara's mother had died of cancer 5 years ago, and it had devastated both Mara and Frank. It was one of the reasons I'd grown so close to Frank. We'd supported each other through Mara's grief. I want you out of this house tonight, I said calmly. Pack a bag, take whatever you need. We'll figure out the rest through lawyers. Eli, please, can't we talk about this? Maybe we can work things out. Work things out? I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my ears. You've been lying to me for 6 months. You've been lying to your father. You've been sneaking around like a teenager thinking I'm too stupid to notice. What exactly is there to work out? I made a mistake. You made a choice. 6 months of choices. Every time you lied about where you were going, every time you came home smelling like his cologne, every time you looked me in the eye and pretended everything was fine, those were all choices. Frank walked over and put his hand on my shoulder. You're a good man, Eli. Better than she deserves. Dad. No, Mara. You don't get to dad me. You threw away a good marriage for what? Some excitement? Some attention from a man who's probably married himself? Actually, Matt was married. I'd done my research. His wife Sonia was a lawyer, and from what I'd heard through the real estate gossip network, she was not someone you wanted to cross. Go pack your bag, I said. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow I'm changing the locks. Mara looked between Frank and me, probably hoping one of us would soften. When neither of us did, she finally went upstairs. We could hear her moving around, opening drawers, slamming closet doors. I'm sorry, son, Frank said quietly. I raised her better than this. It's not your fault, Frank. She's an adult. She made her choices. What are you going to do? I thought about that for a moment. What was I going to do? I could take the high road, file for divorce quietly, split our assets, and move on with my life. That would be the mature adult thing to do. But maturity was overrated, and Mara had humiliated me for 6 months. It was time to return the favor. I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person she really is, I said. Frank nodded grimly. She's got it coming. The next morning, I changed the locks as promised. I also did something else. I called Sonia Hendricks. I'd looked her up online. Sonia Hendricks, partner at Morrison, Blake and Associates, specializing in family law and divorce proceedings. Her LinkedIn photo showed a sharp-faced woman with intelligent eyes and the kind of smile that suggested she ate opposing counsel for breakfast. Mrs. Hendricks, this is Eli Barrett. I believe you know my wife, Mara Barrett from Pinnacle Realty. I'm sorry, I don't think we've met. No, we haven't. But I think you should know that your husband Matt has been having an affair with my wife for the past 6 months. The silence on the other end of the line stretched for nearly 30 seconds. Excuse me? I have photographs if you're interested, time-stamped, geotagged. They've been meeting at an apartment on Elm Street, Unit 47B, yesterday at 7:30 p.m., for instance. Another long pause. When Sonia spoke again, her voice was ice cold. Send me everything you have. My email is sonia.hendricksembalaw.com. I'll send it right now. Mr. Barrett, thank you for calling me. My pleasure, Mrs. Hendricks. I hung up and immediately forwarded all the photos and documentation I'd gathered. Then I sat back and waited for the fireworks to begin. I didn't have to wait long. Around 10 a.m., my phone started buzzing with texts from Mara. Eli, we need to talk. Please don't do this. I'm sorry, okay? I'm really, really sorry. Call me back, please. I ignored them all. I had work to do. My next call was to Vivian Chen, the owner and broker of Pinnacle Realty. Vivian was a tough businesswoman who'd built her agency from nothing, and she had zero tolerance for drama that could damage her company's reputation. Vivian, it's Eli Barrett, Mara's husband. Eli, how are you? I haven't seen you since the Christmas party. I've been better, actually. I'm calling because I thought you should know that Mara and Matt Hendricks have been having an affair. I have documentation if you need it. The cheerfulness vanished from Vivian's voice. Are you certain about this? Absolutely certain. Photos, timestamps, witness statements. It's been going on for 6 months. Jesus Christ, this is exactly what I don't need right now. We're in the middle of trying to land the Riverside development contract. I understand this puts you in a difficult position, Vivian. I just thought you should know before it becomes public knowledge. Public knowledge? Well, Matt's wife is a divorce attorney. I imagine she's not going to handle this quietly. Vivian was quiet for a moment. Thank you for the heads up, Eli. I'm sorry this happened to you. I appreciate that. By noon, my phone was ringing constantly. Mara had clearly been trying to do damage control, but the story was spreading faster than she could contain it. Damon called around 1 o'clock, barely able to contain his laughter. Dude, you should see what's happening at Pinnacle right now. My buddy Jake does their IT work, and he says there was screaming coming from Vivian's office all morning. Really? And get this. Apparently, Matt's wife showed up around 11 with a briefcase and a face that could freeze hell over. She marched right into the office and demanded to see Matt. I wish I could have seen that. Jake says you could hear the shouting from the parking lot. Something about community property and adultery clauses and taking him for everything he's worth. I felt a warm glow of satisfaction. Sonia was clearly not wasting any time. There's more, Damon continued. Mara tried to leave around noon, but there were photographers outside. Photographers? Apparently someone tipped off that gossip blogger, what's her name, Sandra something, the one who covers all the local drama. She's got pictures of Mara crying in the parking lot. Sandra Morrison ran a local blog called Tea Time that covered social drama, business scandals, and general small-town gossip. She had about 50,000 local followers and a nose for scandal that could shame a bloodhound. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Sandra Morrison from Tea Time blog. Would you like to comment on your wife's affair with Matt Hendricks? I have some interesting photos to share. I texted back, no comment, but I appreciate you reaching out. She responded immediately. I respect that. For what it's worth, I'm sorry this happened to you. The story goes live at 3 p.m. At exactly 3 o'clock, I refreshed Sandra's blog. The headline made me smile. Pinnacle Realty rocked by affair scandal. Top agent caught cheating with married colleague. The article was thorough and devastating. Sandra had somehow gotten photos of Matt and Mara at various locations around town, quotes from unnamed sources at Pinnacle about their unprofessional behavior, and even a statement from a neighbor at the Elm Street apartments who'd complained about loud activities coming from Unit 47B. The comments section was brutal. Mara and Matt were getting roasted by people I'd never heard of, and several commenters mentioned seeing them together at various local spots. My favorite comment was from someone named Realty Insider. Everyone at Pinnacle knew about this. Vivian Chen is furious because it makes the whole agency look unprofessional. Word is both Matt and Mara are getting suspended pending an investigation. Around 4 o'clock, Frank called. Eli, I just read that blog post. Jesus. Yeah, it's getting pretty intense. Mara called me crying, begging me to talk to you. She wants to come home. What did you tell her? I told her she made her bed and now she has to lie in it, alone. Frank's voice was grim. She's staying at Kelly's house? Kelly was one of Mara's best friends, a gossipy real estate agent who worked for a competing firm. If Mara thought Kelly's house was a safe haven, she was in for a rude awakening. Kelly was the kind of person who'd sell out her own mother for a good story. How are you holding up, son? Better than I expected, actually. I feel free, I guess. Like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Good. You deserve better than this. That evening, I decided to treat myself to dinner at Murphy's Tavern. I needed to get out of the house, and I wanted to see Damon. The moment I walked in, the entire bar went quiet. Then someone started clapping, and within seconds, half the bar was applauding. I felt my face go red, but I also felt a surge of pride. "Eli!" Damon called out. "Your money's no good here tonight. What are you drinking?" "Whatever's on tap." As Damon poured my beer, people kept coming up to pat me on the back or shake my hand. Apparently, word had spread that I was the wronged husband from the blog post, and public opinion was firmly on my side. "You handled this like a gentleman," said Mrs. Patterson, an elderly woman who lived in my neighborhood. "That wife of yours should be ashamed." "You're better off without her," added Tom Rodriguez from the hardware store. "I never liked the way she looked down on people." Around 9 o'clock, things got interesting. Kelly walked in, looking around nervously. She spotted me at the bar and hesitated, clearly debating whether to approach. I made the decision for her. "Hey, Kelly, how's Mara doing?" Kelly walked over, wringing her hands. "She's not good, Eli. She's really broken up about this." "I bet she is. She wants to know if there's any chance you two can work this out." I took a long sip of my beer and looked Kelly in the eye. "Kelly, let me ask you something. Did you know about the affair?" Her face went pale. I mean, she mentioned that she was having some problems at home." "That's not what I asked. Did you know she was sleeping with Matt?" Kelly looked around the bar, clearly uncomfortable with the audience we'd attracted. "Maybe we should talk privately." "No, I think this is fine." "Answer the question. Did you know?" She shifted her weight, avoiding my gaze. "She told me she had feelings for someone else, but I didn't know it had gone that far." "Bullshit." The word came out louder than I'd intended, and the bar got quiet again. "You knew exactly what was going on, Kelly. You probably helped her plan it, gave her advice on how to sneak around, how to lie to me, am I right?" "Eli, please, am I right?" Kelly's shoulders sagged. She was unhappy, Eli. She felt like you two had grown apart. "So instead of talking to me about it, or suggesting marriage counseling, or asking for a separation, she decided to start screwing her colleague and lying about it for 6 months. And you helped her." "I didn't help her cheat." "You knew about it and didn't tell me. That's helping her cheat." Kelly looked around the bar desperately, probably hoping someone would come to her rescue. Instead, she found a room full of people staring at her with expressions ranging from disgust to amusement. "You can tell Mara that there's no chance of us working things out," I said. "And Kelly, you might want to be careful about the company you keep. People are going to remember that you knew about this and said nothing." Kelly practically ran out of the bar. The moment the door closed behind her, the place erupted in cheers and laughter. "Damn, Eli," Damon said, refilling my beer. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." I smiled and raised my glass to the room. "Here's to finding out who your real friends are." The entire bar toasted with me, and I felt better than I had in months. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Mara kept trying to contact me through various intermediaries, Frank, Kelly, even my boss at the photography studio, but I refused to engage. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Mills, advised me to document everything and avoid direct contact. "Let her dig her own grave," Patricia said. "The more desperate she gets, the more likely she is to do something stupid." She was right. On Thursday morning, I woke up to find Mara sitting in her car in my driveway. When I came out to get the newspaper, she jumped out and ran toward me. "Eli, please, just give me 5 minutes to explain." "There's nothing to explain, Mara. Go home." "This is my home." "No, it's not. Not anymore. You made your choice." She grabbed my arm, and I could see she'd been crying. Her makeup was smeared, her hair was a mess, and she was wearing the same clothes from yesterday. "I made a mistake, okay? A huge mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through it." "Mara, let go of my arm." "Just listen to me. Let go of my arm, or I'm calling the police." She released me, but didn't step back. "You're being cruel, Eli. This isn't like you." "You're right. The old Eli would have taken you back. The old Eli would have blamed himself for not being exciting enough, not paying enough attention to you. But the old Eli was a doormat. That's not true. It is true. For 8 years I made excuses for your behavior. When you flirted with other men at parties, I told myself you were just being friendly. When you made jokes about our intimate life to your friends, I pretended it didn't hurt. When you constantly criticized everything I did, I tried harder to please you. Mara was crying harder now, but I wasn't finished. But you know what the breaking point was? It wasn't even the affair. It was the lying. Looking me in the eye every single day and lying to my face, making me feel like I was going crazy when I noticed things were different. That's not a mistake, Mara. That's cruelty. I was scared. You were selfish. And now you're facing consequences for the first time in your life, and you can't handle it. A car pulled up across the street, and I recognized the driver. It was Janet Morrison, one of our neighbors and a notorious gossip. She was clearly enjoying the show. You need to leave, I said. People are watching. Mara looked around and noticed Janet, who waved cheerfully. I don't care who's watching. Well, I do. And if you don't leave right now, I'm going to call the police and have you removed for trespassing. You wouldn't. I pulled out my phone and started dialing 911. Mara stared at me for a moment, then got back in her car and drove away. That afternoon, I got a call from Vivian Chen. Eli, I wanted to give you an update on the situation at Pinnacle. I appreciate that, Vivian. We've suspended both Matt and Mara pending a full investigation. The Riverside development people saw the blog post and are reconsidering their contract with us. This whole thing is turning into a nightmare. I'm sorry it's affecting your business. It's not your fault, but there's something else you should know. Matt's wife filed for divorce yesterday, and she's demanding half of his commissions from the past 2 years. She's claiming that his affair affected his work performance and constituted a breach of his fiduciary duty to their marriage. I had to admire Sonia's legal creativity. That's thorough. She's also threatening to sue Pinnacle for creating a hostile work environment that enabled the affair. I'm starting to think we're going to have to let both of them go. That's a business decision, Vivian. You have to do what's best for your company. I know. I just wanted you to hear it from me first. After I hung up, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Part of me was satisfied that Mara was facing real consequences for her actions. But part of me also felt guilty. She was about to lose her job, and that would affect her ability to support herself after our divorce. Then I remembered the 6 months of lies, the humiliation, the way she'd made me doubt my own sanity, and the guilt evaporated. That evening, I decided to go for a walk around the neighborhood. I needed to clear my head and get some exercise. As I walked past the community center, I saw a familiar figure sitting on the steps. It was Jessica, another one of Mara's close friends. Unlike Kelly, Jessica had always been decent to me. She was married to a guy named David, who worked in insurance, and they had 2 young kids. Hey, Eli, she said as I approached. Hey, Jess, how are you doing? I've been better. She patted the step beside her and I sat down. I heard about what happened. I'm really sorry. Thanks. That means a lot. I want you to know that I didn't know about the affair. If I had, I would have told you. I studied her face and believed her. Jessica was one of those people who couldn't lie convincingly if her life depended on it. I believe you. Kelly's been saying that you ambushed her at the bar, that you were cruel to her. Kelly knew about the affair and said nothing. She helped Mara lie to me for months. Jessica nodded. I figured that was the case. Kelly's always been flexible with the truth. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching cars drive by. What's Mara saying about all this? I asked. She's devastated. She keeps saying it was a mistake, that she wants to fix things with you. It wasn't a mistake, Jess. Mistakes are accidental. This was a choice she made every day for 6 months. I know, I told her that. Jessica sighed. She's not the same person I became friends with 10 years ago. Success changed her. Made her entitled, I guess. Yeah, I noticed that too. David and I have been talking about distancing ourselves from her. This whole situation has made us realize that we don't like who she's become. That surprised me. Jessica and Mara had been close friends since college. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be sorry. You're not responsible for her choices. Jessica stood up and brushed off her jeans. Take care of yourself, Eli. You deserve better than what she gave you. As I walked home, I reflected on Jessica's words. It was interesting to hear that other people had noticed changes in Mara's personality. It made me feel less crazy, less like I was overreacting to the situation. When I got home, there was a package on my doorstep. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It was from Mara. Inside was a photo album filled with pictures from our early years together. Our wedding, our honeymoon, various vacations and anniversaries. There was also a letter. Eli, it began, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I had to try one more time. Looking through these pictures reminded me of how happy we used to be. We can have that again if you'll just give us a chance. I'll do anything to make this right. I love you. I've always loved you, even when I was making terrible choices. Please don't throw away 8 years of marriage over one mistake. Love, Mara. I stared at the letter for a long time, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. Then I walked to the kitchen, turned on the gas stove, and held the letter over the flame until it caught fire. I dropped it in the sink and watched it burn to ash. The photo album went in the trash. By the following week, the scandal had died down somewhat in the local gossip circles, but the consequences were still rippling outward. Vivian Chen had officially fired both Matt and Mara from Pinnacle Realty. Matt's divorce was proceeding at warp speed, with Sonia systematically dismantling his finances. And Mara was struggling to find new employment, since word of the affair had spread throughout the local real estate community. I was actually starting to feel like the worst was behind me when Frank called with disturbing news. Eli, I think you need to know that Mara's been telling people you were abusive. My blood ran cold. What? She's claiming that you were emotionally abusive throughout the marriage, that the affair was her way of escaping an unhealthy relationship. That's complete bullshit, Frank, and you know it. Of course I know it, but she's got Kelly and a few other people backing up her story. They're saying you were controlling, that you isolated her from her friends, that you made her feel worthless. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. This was exactly the kind of thing that could destroy my reputation and make the divorce proceedings much more complicated. Who's she been telling this to? Anyone who'll listen. She's trying to rehabilitate her image by making you the villain. I hung up and immediately called Patricia Mills. Patricia, we have a problem. After I explained the situation, Patricia was quiet for a long moment. This is serious, Eli. False accusations of abuse can have lasting consequences, even if they're proven untrue. We need to get ahead of this. How? Do you have any documentation of your interactions with Mara? Text messages, emails, anything that shows the real dynamic of your relationship? Some, but most of our communication was in person. What about witnesses, people who observed your marriage and can testify to your character? I thought about it. Frank, obviously, Damon. Jessica seems to be on my side. My boss, maybe some neighbors. Good. Start reaching out to them. We may need character witnesses if this goes to court. That evening, I called Jessica and explained what was happening. That's disgusting, Jessica said. Mara's really lost her mind if she thinks people will believe that. Will you be willing to testify about what you observed in our marriage? Absolutely. David will too. We've been to dozens of social events with you two over the years, and you were always respectful to her. If anything, she was the one who was dismissive and condescending. My next call was to Damon. Dude, that's low even for her, Damon said. Of course I'll back you up. I've seen how you treated her and I've seen how she treated you. Anyone who knows you both will see right through this bullshit. But as the week progressed, I realized that not everyone who knew us would necessarily take my side. Mara was charismatic and manipulative, and she'd had years to plant seeds of doubt about our relationship. The breaking point came on Friday night. I was at Murphy's Tavern again, trying to decompress after a stressful week, when 3 people I'd considered friends walked in. Tom, Sarah, and Mike, all people Mara and I had socialized with regularly. They saw me at the bar and huddled together for a moment before approaching. Tom, who I'd known since high school, was their spokesman. "Eli, we need to talk." "Sure, what's up?" "We've been hearing some disturbing things about your marriage to Mara." I felt my jaw clench. "Such as?" "She says you were controlling and emotionally abusive, that you isolated her from her friends and made her feel trapped. And you believe that?" Sarah stepped forward. She was a social worker, someone who dealt with abuse cases professionally. "Eli, I've seen the signs of emotional abuse, and looking back, there were red flags in your relationship." "Like what?" "The way you'd dismiss her opinions at parties, how you'd make jokes at her expense, the way you'd monitor her phone and ask where she was going all the time." I stared at her in disbelief. "Are you kidding me right now?" "We're not trying to attack you," Mike said. "But if Mara felt like she had to have an affair to feel valued and appreciated, then maybe there were problems in the marriage that you're not acknowledging." The bar had gone quiet around us. Damon was watching from behind the bar, his face dark with anger. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly. "Mara lies to me for 6 months, cheats on me with a married man, humiliates me publicly, and somehow I'm the bad guy because I asked where she was going when she started acting suspicious." "It's more complicated than that," Sarah said. "No, it's really not. It's actually very simple. She chose to cheat instead of communicating with me about problems in our marriage. She chose to lie instead of asking for counseling or a separation. She chose to betray me instead of being honest." "But if you created an environment where she felt like she couldn't be honest," Tom began. "Stop." My voice was loud enough that the entire bar could hear. "Just stop right there." I stood up and faced the 3 of them. "You want to know what emotional abuse looks like? It's making your spouse doubt their own sanity. It's lying to their face every single day. It's making them feel like they're crazy for noticing that something's wrong." "Eli, I'm not finished. You want to know what isolation looks like? It's when your wife's friends know she's cheating and don't tell you. It's when those same friends decide that the cheater is the victim and the betrayed spouse is the abuser." Sarah's face was getting red. "We're trying to be fair to both sides." "No, you're not. You're trying to make yourselves feel better about the fact that you've chosen to support someone who lied and cheated instead of someone who was honest and faithful. That's not... You know what the really sick part is? If Mara was truly in an abusive relationship, having an affair would have been the worst possible choice. It would have put her in more danger, not less. But she wasn't in an abusive relationship. She was in a boring relationship with a man who loved her, and she decided that wasn't exciting enough." The 3 of them exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with the direction the conversation was taking. "Look, Eli," Mike said, "maybe we should all just calm down and—" "Get out." "What?" "Get out of this bar, now." "You can't kick us out of a public place," Sarah said. "Watch me." I turned to address the entire bar. "Everyone here knows what really happened in my marriage. They know that Mara cheated and lied, and they know that I handled it with more class than she deserved. These 3 people have decided to believe her lies and make me out to be an abuser. I think they should find somewhere else to drink." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Voices rose from every corner of the bar. "Yeah, get out! We don't want cheater enablers here. Eli's a good guy, and you're full of shit. Take your victim blaming somewhere else." Tom, Sarah, and Mike looked around in shock as the entire bar turned hostile. Mrs. Patterson, the elderly woman who'd supported me the week before, actually stood up and pointed toward the door. "You should be ashamed of yourselves," she said. "That boy has been nothing but a gentleman through this whole mess. and you're trying to make him the villain. Get out." The three of them left quickly, and the bar erupted in cheers and applause. Damon poured me a fresh beer and slid it across the bar. That was beautiful, man. Absolutely beautiful. But as the adrenaline faded, I felt a deep sadness settle over me. These were people I'd considered friends for years, and they'd chosen to believe the worst about me based on lies from a woman who'd proven herself to be dishonest. "You okay?" Damon asked quietly. "Yeah," I said, just realizing that I didn't lose a wife. I lost a whole group of people I thought were friends. Good riddance. Real friends don't abandon you when things get tough. He was right, but it still hurt. Mara hadn't just destroyed our marriage, she'd tried to destroy my reputation and my friendships. And she'd succeeded with at least some people. That's when I decided that playing defense wasn't enough anymore. It was time to go on the offensive. Over the weekend, I did something I'd never done before in my life. I planned a calculated, systematic campaign of revenge. Not the kind that would land me in jail or make me look like the bad guy, but the kind that would expose Mara's true character to everyone who mattered. My first move was to contact Sandra Morrison from the Tea Time blog. "Sandra, this is Eli Barrett. I'm ready to give you that interview." "Really? What changed your mind?" "My ex-wife is spreading lies about me being abusive. I think it's time people heard the truth." We met at a coffee shop on Monday morning. Sandra was a sharp woman in her 40s, with the kind of predatory smile that suggested she could smell blood in the water. "So, tell me your side of the story," she said, setting up a digital recorder. I told her everything. The months of lies, the discovery of the affair, the way Mara had tried to gaslight me into thinking I was imagining things. I showed her text messages where Mara had been loving and affectionate right up until the day I confronted her, which contradicted her claims of being in an abusive relationship. "This is good stuff," Sandra said, "but I need more than just your word. Do you have anyone who can corroborate your version of events?" "Several people, and I have an idea for getting more evidence." I explained my plan, and Sandra's eyes lit up with excitement. "That's brilliant, and completely legal. When do you want to do it?" "This weekend. Mara's friend Kelly is having a party, and I know Mara will be there. She won't be able to resist the opportunity to play the victim in front of a sympathetic audience." That evening, I called Jessica. "Jess, I need a favor, and it's going to sound weird." "What kind of favor?" "I need you to go to Kelly's party this weekend and secretly record Mara talking about our marriage." There was a long pause. "Eli, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that." "She's telling people I was abusive, Jess. She's trying to destroy my reputation to cover up her own bad behavior. I need proof of what she's really saying." "Can't you just ignore it? People who know you won't believe it." "Some people already believe it. 3 people I considered friends confronted me at Murphy's last week and basically accused me of driving her to cheat." Jessica sighed. "Okay, I'll do it. But only because I know she's lying." "Thank you. I owe you big time." "You don't owe me anything. Just promise me you won't use this to hurt her unnecessarily." "I promise. I just want the truth to come out." The party was on Saturday night. Jessica texted me updates throughout the evening. "She's here, already playing the victim. She's telling everyone you threatened her when she tried to get her stuff from the house. Now she's claiming you hit her once during an argument 2 years ago." That last text made my blood boil. Mara knew I'd never laid a hand on her in anger, but she was escalating her lies to include physical abuse. Around 11 p.m., Jessica texted, "Got it all, coming over now." She arrived at my house 20 minutes later with her phone and a grim expression. "Eli, what she's saying about you is really bad. I mean, really bad. Let me hear it." Jessica played the recording. Mara's voice was clear and emotional as she described a marriage that bore no resemblance to reality. According to her version of events, I was a controlling monster who'd isolated her from her friends, monitored her every move, and eventually became physically violent. He hit me during an argument about money, Mara's voice said on the recording. Just once, but it scared me so much. I started having the affair because Matt made me feel safe and valued. He reminded me that I deserved better. That's completely false, I said. Every word of it. I know, but she's very convincing. Half the people at that party were crying by the time she finished. I copied the recording to my computer and immediately sent it to Sandra Morrison, along with a detailed explanation of why each claim was false. Sandra called me an hour later. This is perfect, Eli. She's clearly lying and I can prove it. How? She claims you hit her 2 years ago during an argument about money, but I have photos from Kelly's Instagram account from that same time period showing you and Mara at various social events. In every photo, she's smiling and affectionate with you. No one stays with an abusive partner and acts that happy in public. Good point. Plus, she claims you isolated her from her friends, but her own social media shows her going out with friends constantly throughout your marriage. She's not very good at keeping her lies straight. When will you publish it? Tomorrow morning. I'm calling it The Other Side of the Story. Husband responds to abuse claims. I barely slept that night, wondering if I was doing the right thing. But when I woke up and saw Sandra's article, I knew I'd made the correct choice. The piece was devastating. Sandra had done her homework, using social media posts, photos, and witness statements to systematically debunk every claim Mara had made. She'd even gotten quotes from Frank, who was furious about his daughter's lies. I raised Mara to be honest and take responsibility for her actions, Frank was quoted as saying. This attempt to rewrite history and demonize a good man is shameful. Eli was nothing but loving and supportive throughout their marriage. The comments section exploded within hours. People who'd initially felt sympathy for Mara were now expressing outrage at her lies. Several commenters shared their own stories of being falsely accused of abuse, and the consensus was overwhelmingly supportive of me. But the real fireworks started when Sonia Hendricks shared the article on her law firm's Facebook page with the comment, "This is why I always investigate abuse claims thoroughly. False accusations harm real victims and destroy innocent lives." That post went viral in the local legal community, and suddenly everyone was talking about the case. By Monday morning, Mara was in full panic mode. She called me directly for the first time since the confrontation at my house. "Eli, you have to make that blogger take down that article. It's destroying my life." Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to lie about me being abusive. I never said you were abusive. People misunderstood what I was trying to say. Mara, I have a recording of you claiming I hit you. Do you want me to play it back for you? The silence on the other end of the line stretched for nearly a minute. How did you get a recording? That doesn't matter. What matters is that you lied. You told people I physically abused you, which is completely false, and you know it. I was hurt and angry. I said things I didn't mean. No, you said things you did mean. You were trying to destroy my reputation to save your own. The only problem is that you're not as smart as you think you are. Please, Eli, I'm begging you, make her take it down. I can't make Sandra do anything. She's a journalist reporting the truth. The truth? You set me up. You had someone spy on me at a private party. I had a friend document your lies because you were trying to destroy my life. There's a difference. Mara started crying, but I felt no sympathy for her. You did this to yourself, Mara. You chose to cheat, you chose to lie, and you chose to make false accusations when people started holding you accountable. Every consequence you're facing is the direct result of your own actions. I'm sorry, okay? I'm really, really sorry. I'll tell everyone I made a mistake. It's too late for that. You burned your bridges when you decided to lie about abuse. That's not something people forgive or forget. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. That afternoon, I got a call from Patricia Mills with interesting news. Eli, Mara's lawyer just called. They want to settle the divorce quickly and quietly. What are they offering? Basically everything you asked for. She keeps her car and her personal belongings. You keep the house and your retirement accounts. No alimony, no splitting of assets. What's the catch? No catch. I think the abuse allegations backfiring spooked them. They want this to go away before it gets any worse for her. I thought about it for a moment. Accept the offer. Are you sure? We could probably get more now that she's in a weak position. I'm sure. I want this over with. 2 weeks later, I signed the divorce papers in Patricia's office. Mara wasn't there. Her lawyer said she was too emotional to attend. As I walked out of the lawyer's office, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't expected. It was over. Really, truly over. But the story wasn't quite finished yet. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I was settling into my new life as a single man. I'd started dating a woman named Amy, a teacher who was kind, honest, and refreshingly drama-free. I'd also expanded my photography business and was making more money than I ever had while married to Mara. Life was good, but I still occasionally heard updates about my ex-wife through the local gossip network. Mara had been unable to find work in real estate anywhere in the tri-state area. Word of the affair and the false abuse allegations had spread throughout the industry, and no reputable firm would hire her. She'd eventually taken a job as a receptionist at a car dealership, making a fraction of her former salary. Matt Hendricks had fared even worse. Sonia had taken him for everything he was worth in their divorce, and he'd been forced to move back in with his parents at age 40. He was working as a used car salesman at the same dealership where Mara was a receptionist, which had to be awkward for both of them. Kelly had also faced consequences for her role in enabling the affair. Several mutual friends had cut ties with her, and her own real estate business had suffered as people questioned her ethics and judgment. I was feeling pretty satisfied with how things had turned out when Frank called me with unexpected news. "Eli, I thought you should know that Mara's been arrested." "What? For what?" "Fraud. Apparently she's been using fake references and lying about her work history on job applications. One of the companies she applied to did a thorough background check and discovered the deception. They reported her to the police." I felt a moment of genuine shock. I can't believe she'd be that stupid. She was desperate, son. The false abuse allegations destroyed any chance she had of rebuilding her reputation, so she started lying about her past to try to get better jobs. What's going to happen to her? Her lawyer thinks she'll probably get probation and community service for a first offense, but it'll be on her record permanently. After I hung up, I sat in my living room and tried to process this final twist in the saga. Mara had gone from being a successful real estate agent to being a convicted fraudster in less than a year, all because she'd chosen to cheat instead of being honest about problems in our marriage. Part of me felt bad for her, but a larger part of me felt that she'd brought it all on herself. Every step of her downfall had been the result of her own choices. The affair, the lies, the false accusations, and now the fraud. That evening, Amy came over for dinner. She knew the basic story of my divorce, but not all the details, and I'd been careful not to dwell on the past when we were together. "You seem thoughtful tonight," she said as we cleaned up the dishes. "Everything okay?" "My ex-wife got arrested today." Amy raised an eyebrow. "Wow. For what?" I explained the situation, and Amy listened without judgment. "Do you feel bad for her?" she asked when I finished. "A little, but mostly I feel relieved that it's really over now. She can't hurt me anymore. She never could hurt you, Eli. You're stronger than you think." Amy was right. The man who'd been married to Mara would have been devastated by her arrest, would have felt guilty and responsible somehow. But I'd changed over the past year. I'd learned to stand up for myself, to set boundaries, to demand the respect I deserved. "You know what the crazy part is?" I said. "If she'd just been honest with me from the beginning, none of this would have happened. If she'd come to me and said she was unhappy, that she wanted counseling or even a separation, I would have worked with her. We could have ended things amicably." But that would have required her to take responsibility for her feelings instead of blaming you for them. Exactly. And that's not who she is. A week later, I ran into Jessica at the grocery store. She looked embarrassed when she saw me, probably because she'd been the one to secretly record Mara at the party. "Hey, Eli, how are you doing?" "Great, actually, really great. How about you?" "I'm okay. I heard about Mara's arrest. Wow. Yeah, it's been a wild ride." Jessica hesitated for a moment, then said, "I want you to know that I feel bad about recording her that night. It felt wrong, even though I knew she was lying." "Don't feel bad, Jess. You helped expose the truth. If you hadn't done that, people might still believe her lies." "I know, but still, it feels like we were all part of some toxic drama that could have been avoided." She was right about that. The whole situation had been toxic and unnecessary, created by Mara's inability to be honest about her feelings and take responsibility for her actions. "You're a good person, Jessica. Don't let this situation change that." "Thanks, Eli. I'm glad you're doing well. You deserve to be happy." As I drove home from the grocery store, I reflected on how much my life had changed in the past year. I'd lost a wife, but I'd gained self-respect. I'd lost some friends, but I'd discovered who my real friends were. I'd been through hell, but I'd come out stronger on the other side. Most importantly, I'd learned that I didn't have to accept disrespect or dishonesty from anyone, even someone I loved. I'd learned to fight for myself, to demand the truth, and to hold people accountable for their actions. That night, as Amy and I watched a movie on the couch, I felt genuinely content for the first time in years. The drama was over, the toxic people were out of my life, and I was free to build something better with someone who actually deserved my love and trust. Mara had tried to destroy me with her lies and manipulation, but she'd actually done me a favor. She'd forced me to become a stronger, more confident version of myself. She'd taught me what I wouldn't tolerate in a relationship, and she'd shown me the importance of choosing partners based on character rather than charm. 6 months later, I heard through the grapevine that Mara had pleaded guilty to the fraud charges and been sentenced to 2 years of probation and 200 hours of community service. She was still working at the car dealership, still struggling to rebuild her life. I felt nothing when I heard the news. No satisfaction, no sympathy, no anger. She was simply irrelevant to my life now, a cautionary tale about the consequences of dishonesty and selfishness. Amy and I got engaged that fall, in a simple ceremony surrounded by people who actually cared about us. Frank walked Amy down the aisle, having become like a father to her over the months we'd been together. Damon was my best man, and Jessica and her husband were among the guests. As I stood at the altar waiting for Amy, I thought about how different this felt from my first wedding. There was no anxiety, no nagging doubts, no sense that I was settling for less than I deserved. There was just joy and certainty, and the knowledge that I was marrying someone who would never lie to me or betray me. During the reception, Frank pulled me aside for a private conversation. "I'm proud of you, son. You handled that whole mess with more class than Mara deserved." "Thanks, Frank. That means a lot coming from you. I want you to know that I consider you more of a son than I do her. She's made her choices, and she has to live with the consequences. I'm sorry it worked out that way." "I'm not. You're a good man, Eli, and you deserve to be happy. Amy's lucky to have you." As the evening wound down and Amy and I prepared to leave for our honeymoon, I took one last look around the room at all the people who'd supported me through the worst period of my life. These were my real friends, my real family, the people who'd stood by me when things got tough. Mara had tried to isolate me, to turn people against me, to destroy my reputation and my happiness. Instead, she'd helped me identify the people who truly mattered and eliminate the toxic influences from my life. In the end, her betrayal had been the best thing that ever happened to me.